Good afternoon from Tenderfoot Farms. In years past, we grew our sweet potatoes as slips in a jar, like this. Well, this year I watched an interesting video where instead of breaking these off and putting them as back into quart jars in water, somebody said that having the roots exposed to lots of sunlight causes poor oxygenation on the roots, which is obvious because they're in water, although you do change out the water. But it also causes things to grow on the roots that shouldn't be there because you don't normally have sunlight on your roots. So this year we kind of did a hybrid approach where after I broke off the slips from each of these, instead of putting them back into water, I put them into a big flat mortar mixing tub filled with potting soil and kept a pretty good amount of water in there, almost the same amount of water as what I would have in the quart jars, except that the potting soil kept the sunlight off the roots. So I'll show you how that turned out. Here's that mixing tub I was speaking about. You can buy these at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're quite cheap. I think this one was $10. I have a much bigger one that was $15. And I filled it full of potting soil and mixed in some extra perlite just to make sure it was light and fluffy. I grew two different kinds of sweet potatoes this year. This first one that I've already planted is called Covington. And then the one that will be planted soon is called Beauregard. Beauregard is kind of the tried and true version, and Covington is a more uniform tuber size, but a lot like Beauregard, but less prone to weird giant tubers and so forth. But you can see if I take these and break them up out of here that I have a really nice finely branched root structure growing on the slips in this potting soil, which I never had trying to grow slips inside of quart jars. This is so much better. I'm definitely doing this in the future. And I think I'll actually put my potatoes themselves into another tub just like this, half buried in the medium, keep it really good and wet, but have this potting soil keep the light off of it. And by doing that, I think I'll get even better results out of the potatoes. And this tub, I had almost 100 potato slips in here, and it takes up less room than the jars. And I think I probably had 30 jars growing these slips, and I think this will take up a whole lot less room. So you can see my garden is really wet today. I like to plant my sweet potato slips after a really nice heavy rainstorm. We got over an inch of rain last night, and then I'll just come out here and shovel this way down deep, and rock my shovel back and forth, pick that up. Maybe I need to rock the shovel again. The goal here is I want a really deep hole, and I want to bury those lovely roots as deep down as I can get them, like that. And then try not to bury too many of the leaves, and then I'll just shove dirt on top, pack it down good, and I'm done. And of course, if I wasn't holding the camera, this would go a lot faster. But that's how I do sweet potatoes. They work great every year, but that's by far the best root structure I've ever seen on my slips. And my slips are really tall and healthy. They've only been in this potting soil medium for maybe 3 to 4 weeks, which is about the same as I do in jars, but in the jars you'd have fewer, longer, big roots and a lot less of that nice fibrous root structure. So this is definitely something I'm gonna do in the future, and I think it'll work out much better than growing them in quart jars in water. Of course, it helps that I have a small greenhouse. It's unheated, but it's enough that I can get the sweet potatoes started out there on a heating mat that I have an extension cord running out to the greenhouse, and I start the slips on a heating mat, and that way they don't freeze. Sweet potatoes are very sensitive to frost. If it even gets near 32 degrees, they'll die. They're even more sensitive than tomatoes. You can see we've got that's potatoes and weeds, and lots of Japanese giant red mustard over there, which I'm growing for seeds this year. And then over here we've got a long tunnel of cattle panels that have all different kinds of beans that are just starting to grow. These that are growing the best right here it's a French yellow green bean which sounds funny when you say it. It's called Bio de Rocancourt. Got them several years ago from Baker Creek Seeds, and I've been saving the seeds since. We really like the taste of them, but I have a different kind of green bean on almost every one of these trellises. And then down near this end, I've got cucumbers and some small cantaloupes, the Sharon Taste French cantaloupes that are really nice. Well, that's it for Tenderfoot Farms today. Please subscribe if you like this video. We're trying to do more of them, and hopefully you learned something about sweet potato slips that you didn't know before. Thanks. This one hasn't been in the ground for quite so long, so its roots aren't as big and bushy, but still very healthy for a sweet potato slip.